Hello, welcome to the War Game. I'm your host, Rob. We're here for the Age of Sigmar Stat Center and my co-host, Mr. Owen Jackson. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not sure which way I need to point. Are you there? Just
Yeah,
so I know.
nailed it.
Really?
Yeah, there we go. That's
I had a 50-50 chance. Oh, hold on. Can we do a high five then? Is that right?
yeah. Boom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just going to switch the chat on because it's not on for me. But yeah, it's Monday. That means we get to talk about Warhammer again, right?
Which is brilliant. Arguably, I was upset yesterday that we only kind of talked about Warhammer a bit, but now fully back into the conversation about Warhammer, which is super fun. I want to say hello to everyone who's joined us in the chat. Happy Monday. First Monday back for everyone. I know some people will be at work, some people will be in lockdown, some people will be like, I hate everything, like whatever, but I love you all. Happy New Year to you all. Rabbit Bunny, Helgamar, sorry again. Jackator, nice to see you. DJ Batman, very nice to see you. Happy New Year to you. Inferno Storms, who played at the weekend, great job. Scrivo, yes. Colonel Cabbage, yes. Marcus Rock, what up? Plymouth Troll Slayers, yes. Dydrin, who's got a Twitch channel if you want to go watch him paint now. And Dydrin is like an amazing painter. You should go check him out. Right, Owen, how you been? You been well? You had a great time at the weekend?
Yeah, you know what? That was really good. I loved your little roll call then of everyone in the chat because it's a bit like, when you're a kid and you go to the pub and it's like all your mates are there. It's like, oh, so and so's there and so and so's there, and
Is Jim coming? You're like, I love Jim.
He's in the
yes!
toilet. Yeah, woo. So yeah, it just felt like that for a minute. That was nice. Yeah, I'm good. I'm very good. Really enjoyed the weekend. I don't know what it was, whether it's the new year or just sort of where my head's at, but I just felt all gooey and warm about all of us mates playing Warhammer and having a laugh, and yeah, it was great. And everyone, I got some really nice feedback from the weekend, and people are hyped for the next one. So yeah,
good.
10 out of 10.
All right. Well, there's lots to unpack today. Obviously, the new year's only 4 days old, so there's lots to unpack. This TTS event that we're talking about right now probably was the first event of the year, so that's cool. It's nice having the feather in that boa. I might start organising myself an event 1st of January every year from this point, Owen. I want the accolade of the first of the year.
Nice.
Yeah, because if you can't be the best, you might as well be the first. That's what my thoughts are.
I just can't stop thinking about you and a feather boa, getting like a Nathan burlesque glitter vibe going on. I'm sorry, I've got that image. Yeah.
I literally could send you that image later if you want.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, 1st of Jan battles, like 1 minute past midnight. That's going to be. Hey, Finn Parish. Hello, welcome to you. So, there was the thing we're going to unpack today, if you guys are interested, is the TTS event that we did coverage of at the weekend, which was fun, which was Owen's Hammer Time event. There are also some great events to look forward to this year. Now, we know lockdown and COVID is rough for some people, and there aren't many places around the world where you are actually able to get out and game. So some of these events will be TTS related, which is awesome. Great opportunity for people to play things, which is super cool, and some of them won't be. So we'll talk about all of them as we get through. So that's what this show is going to be about over the next year. So if you guys have events, you want to message us about them, be they TTS events or real world events, we want to hear about it. If you know people who are running them, get them to message us. You can message us on the Honest Wargamer Discord. You can message us. There's a Discord for this. There's the Stat Center Discord and loads of other stuff. So just drop us loads of messages and we'll smash. Is what we'll do, because we want to talk about it. It's very exciting. So there are some events we'll be talking about as well. Of course, as always, thanks to everyone who listens to the podcast. Please drink that water and stay hydrated, especially in 2021. I want you to be healthy. And thank you to everyone on Patreon. Couldn't do it without you. You guys are great. The best. Owen, the Hammer Time event. Do you want to tell us what kicked it off, how you set it up and why?
Yeah, all it was it's kind of end of the year, and always you look back at what has been and what's going to happen in the future, and I just thought it was a good opportunity to maybe let some of the books and some of the armies and perhaps players who love sort of stuff that's not on the top tier. So I thought about what you call the fat middle, and then I thought, well, we all get a little bit of a fat middle at festive time. Yeah, exactly. Delicious food all in there. So I thought, I love a pun, a bit of a play on words, so we'll do the fat middle. So yeah, we skimmed off. I did let it be data driven, and we've talked about it in the past, so I'm not going to go too much, but just as a headline, we just took Seraphon, Lumineth, Tzeentch Fireslayers, the Ideneth Deepkin, and Nurgle, the Magakin of Nurgle. We just said, you can't bring armies from those books, and let the other books breathe a little.
So one of the odd questions that came up from the weekend was the inclusion of Nurgle in that list. The rest of it makes sense to me. I felt like I hadn't had that conversation with you, so I'd just like to ask very quickly. I had felt that it was because of Blight King spam specifically and only. Is that the case?
Yeah, I would say so. There are a couple of players because this came from around about 14 tabletop simulator tournaments, over 1,200 games, and while I did get contacted by a few people saying, it's not perfect data, but I did it off top 5 finishes. I thought that was quite a simple thing to do, and effectively the Blight King spam. And they were Nurgle's got a soft spot in people's hearts, isn't it? Because it isn't necessarily top tier, but rather than me choose armies that I felt were really strong, I had to let data drive it. So going by the data, they had some of the best results on top 5. So they were up there I think they were 5th in the top 5s, and they were very well represented. So it wasn't kind of as if one person was just crushing with them all the time. It wasn't like an anomaly. So yeah, it was those Blight King lists, the Thricefold Befoulment lists. We saw people like Steve Follows bringing. You can get a lot in that list, with Be'lakor and the Triple Fatty and the 30 Plague Bearers.
Love that list.
Yeah,
I love the journey. I love the journey that Nurgle army is on constantly. And it's surprising I don't see that played more, because it seems like such a fun list. And actually, I was thinking about the Triple Fatty list recently. And one of the things that we talked about on the show a lot, we've talked about a lot recently, is Archeon and his ability to be an amazing counter meta pick at the minute. Like, he's so good for that. That then made me think about other stuff that made you reroll 6s to hit. And obviously, I jumped to the Witherstave, which is such a great artifact. And of course, you can include that in the triple fatty list. And of course, I'm talking about the Great Unclean Ones. Yes. Triple fatties are actually what I call several of the photos from my childhood.
It seems a real shame that we didn't put a triple fatty list in the fat middle, right? But I had to let the data drive it,
No, I understand. But like, I wonder if we'd see the Witherstave's going to come up as a pick generally in Nurgle in the future, but only time will tell, I guess.
I think so. And then when you factor in the Nurgle wheel, so you've got the reroll 6s to wound, which really helps against those skink mortals even more. I mean, I played against a Nurgle list recently, and that you got -2 to hit in shooting for those blocks of 30 Plague Bearers. You can afford to put a unit of Untamed Beasts in to screen out. And then, 45 Blight Kings and assist with a Harbinger and Be'lakor. I've seen that list recently. That's a lot of meat to grind through. So that was one where people were saying, why is that banned? And then the other one was Caradron Overlords. Why isn't that banned? And that's just, again, we've talked about it in the past, but that's just down to representation. Just people haven't been bringing it. And even with free reign, there were only 2 players at the weekend that brought KO. So it's just not particularly popular.
I think it'd be very interesting to see whether or not that translates to real world gaming whenever we see this. Probably by the time we get actual, real, hard driven data, it's going to be data. It'll probably be towards the new edition in the summer, ultimately. But you never know. It'd be very interesting. I know that. See, the other thing as well, a lot of people always point at Australia as well. You generally tend to see some very unique and interesting lists pop up in Australia, and Australia is one of the few places like New Zealand where you can game fairly freely. However, I don't know if you've all been aware, but they've always had a very janky and weird meta because none of them really care what anyone else thinks. And hard-headed would be another description. They're like, no, I'll definitely make this work. This will work. Like, I'm not sure about that, mate. It's like, nah, I've got it, brother. Like, so...
They're boulder-headed, aren't they? They love their ogres and they don't give a fuck.
Exactly. So with that leading in, obviously we did the coverage of the weekend. You can go back and watch all those games. We might be making like a montage video of that as well, but like more on that in the future, which is quite exciting. Me and Scribs are working on that project. So some more to do that. But you can go watch those games back live. They're on YouTube. They're obviously also on the Twitch VOD. So if you want to go watch those, super, super fun. A couple of things I've learned from that as well. Going into the event, we saw Cities of Sigmar were one of the most picked factions, which wasn't overly surprising, I don't think. Like, what did you think about the meta, actually, after those units got creamed off? I know there's a lot to unpack from that.
I mean, there were quite a number of factions that got well represented. I mean, the love for... Excuse me. the love for destruction armies knows no bounds. I think the fact that those top armies got skimmed off, and it lets some of the combat armies or armies that rely on small characters like your war chanters and your war docks. There was a real explosion of iron jaws and bone splitters, which was really nice to see. I think with the Ideneth being taken out, and also the Lumineth, the Elven players obviously moved to Daughters of Cain because that's really strong. So we had 4 Daughters of Cain lists. Going back to the Iron Jaws, we had 4 Iron Jaws. But then, yeah, as you say, Cities of Sigmar, it's a really tough one. It's a bit like if you always talked about Bone Splitters, Iron Jaws, and Big Y, if you just called them Auric war clans all the time, then it's a different conversation to when you start talking about the 3 separate factions. And I think the same thing occurs really with Cities of Sigmar. You go Cities of Sigmar, but Living City, Tempest Eye, Hammerhall, they're very different playstyles, even though they're dipping into the same unit pool, aren't they? So
yeah, I mean, problematically, what you would really want to do is you actually would like to. One of the things that we've started to do on overlays is a good example. Like I very rarely, like when we talked about the overlays and stuff for the Super Series, we didn't actually even put the faction. We just put the sub faction on. Because ultimately that was more important. Like a DOK, DOK is a bad example. Cities of Sigmar is a great example. Really, you don't need to know Sigmar list. You need to know which city type list it is. So you're like, is it a Hammerhall list? Is it a Living City list? So we only put sub-factions on now. So we were like Living City versus X, as opposed to like, versus Hollowmorn or something. As opposed to like the main Grand Alliance. Problem is, some of the older books don't really have sub-factions of any note. So if you did break the stats up like that, I mean, it would be interesting to just break the stats up completely via sub-faction. One of the things that me and LLV talked about quite a while ago was just putting sub-factions in as opposed to anything else. That would be really important. Obviously, one of those conversations centered around Legions and Nagash, which we put as a whole book. And then Legions and Nagash players were like, oh, they're really different. And it's like, they're not different at all. They all use one command ability. That's it.
And they all pop, the 30 Grims pop back up.
But yeah, that and the sub-faction infers the main faction anyway, right? Yes, obviously, Tom, big love to you. Really nice to see you. Happy New Year. So, yeah, you're right. Like, separating those out might be something that we could do just in the future generally. I think that would be more interesting for stats, and it would be more interesting for all of us, because I'd probably like to know how Living City performs over the year versus how like Hollowmorn, which sub-faction really is doing better. Because we talk about Seraphon's power, but obviously we talk about Fangs of Sotek a lot.
Yes.
We talk about that a lot. And Fire Slayers, really, it's just one sub-faction. And then seeing how, when someone does take another sub-faction, how they generally perform. So, no, it's a good point. It's a super good point.
And with that in mind, I can give you that breakdown. So Cities of Sigmar were the top represented faction with 6 armies. And that was 3 Hallowheart. A lot of people contacted me after I did the cut and were like, oh, Hallowheart are going to win, turn 1, put down the bridge and rinse everything with Iron Drakes. So yeah, there were 3 Hallowheart lists, 2 Living City lists, and 1 Hammerhall. I do think that the absence of a Tempest Eye list was quite a shock. I still think Tempest Eye.
I said that.
Yeah. I really do think they were strong. And to be honest with you, based on what was brought, I don't know every single matchup, and there might have been some mirrors, but they didn't actually perform particularly well. Out of those 6 armies, we're going to obviously talk about the winner in Philip shortly, but we had 2 armies didn't win a game. Everyone else won 1 game and lost 2. And it was only Philip who really got the most out of that book. And there's a conversation about whether we talk about lists or we talk about players, right?
Because I mean, it's one of the things that we talk about like loads in stats generally, and also my other co-hosts and friends of the show, the guys from the 40k Stat Center, Pete and Val, who will be on tomorrow, they talk about all the time. Like they generated some really solid data from LVO last year, where like the people who were already performing very well at tournaments that year then performed like they were in like they had like they took basically the top 100 performing players who went to the LVO, and then those players had something wild, like a 90% win rate, like as a group, if you know what I mean. So player skill is obviously something that's very vital in Age of Sigmar, and as well as in 40k. I've always said that. Even if you end up with the two players with the most honed and tailored list in the world, sometimes yet you do get bad matchups, but ultimately it's about the plays. And one of those other conversations we were having as well is sometimes you can even be a great player of note and you could think that you're in a match that you're going to lose. So much so that you message a TO about it, right? But you end up smashing face, right? So it goes from legend, it goes from, like, because you're involving the other person. The other person can make as many mistakes as you can make, and you were never playing yourself. So, there's loads to unpack there. But player skill, as important as power level of the army. You need both, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a more sort of savvy statsman than myself, such as like JP Gannis, I think he's actually done some work on that. So JP of Listbot fame, I think he's been on your show a couple of times. He's put some stats together regarding player performance and army lists and things like that. So I think people can check that out on Listbot. But basically the cream always rises to the top. That's how I'm going to put it. Generally.
That's it. That's our oldie worldy way. Yeah, we're going to watch Chitty Chitty Bang Bang later and shout things like, "The cream will always rise to the top and rule Britannia."
Tippity top of big
Ben's whole cock.
Wow. Okay, yeah. God, we're all over the board today, aren't we, Rob? We really are.
We're having a great time. I'm having a great time, if that's okay.
Yeah, me too, man. Cities were the top performing, and as I say, there was quite a mixture of results there. Shit floats. Well done, Scrivo. Yes, magic. Skaven armies, there were 5 of those. And then Daughters of Cain had 4 armies, which all performed well. The Iron Jaws, apart from the man, the myth, the legend of Orkman, go check out Game 3. He got a 3-0, but the other Iron Jaws, they only all picked up a single win each. Again, I think we saw Kodrin on the stream Game 1, battling against all the cockatrices. So all the Iron Jaws players, they picked up just a single win each. And then Slaves to Darkness. I think if we're going to talk about an army that really benefits from the top being skimmed off of the meta, then I think Slaves to Darkness. I've had a couple of people get in touch with me after the tournament and being like, "Oh, I think I'm going to really have a good look." I love you too, Antu. Have a really good look at the Slaves to Darkness book because, there were 4 armies there. 2 armies won both their games and finished in the top 3. And one had a 2-1, and then there was a single 1-2 finish for one of the Slaves to Darkness. So I love that book. I think it's a real, I know it sounds a bit corny, but it's a real player's army. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're just letting the War Scrolls win the game for you. It's like you can
there's a lot of Holy Within. I think like there's a lot of Holy Within. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of plays. I mean, there's some like obvious like power pieces inside of it as well. But like none of it like really like drives home, ignoring 40 Marauders. None of it really like drives home in its like outrageous spiky level. And they're all threats, which is quite nice. But they're threats that you have to play around and use quite well. And also very much like Sigmar list, or like any of those other lists that we see. It's all attrition. There's no summoning. They're an army that once stuff's dead, it's dead. So you are trading pieces and you can't really like bring stuff back, ignoring some Varangard in the right situation. So yeah, there's lots to unpack about the Slaves to Darkness army, and ultimately because I think there's also a little bit of mysticism around it as well. Like it's a little bit difficult to like break through that barrier. Like I've read the Battle Tome a couple of times. I've played the army a few times. Like and still I'm just like oh yeah like like the Chaos Lord. I mean some of the big pieces, Chaos Lord obviously incredible. War Shrine, obviously incredible, but even then you've got to be like constantly moving the War Shrine. I think that's what I like about the army. The army has to constantly be in flux. Constantly be like, okay, I'm taking that piece over there, but the buff piece next turn or turn after needs to be over there as well. How am I going to achieve that aim? Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you, and I think that's why you do see it as a bit of a player's army. It's you do have to move, you have to move your castle around, and you've got threats. You do. There's no shooting in the book really outside of the what they called the soul grinders, but you can project power with the teleport and the marauder combo. like that will keep your opponent honest. But I was breaking it down a little bit with Cole, who came 10th with his Skaven. He lost to Alan in game 3, and he was talking about how he could have done things differently. And it was just like exactly like you say, Rob. Threat saturation. Chaos Knights are a threat. Varangard are a threat. Marauders are a threat. The War Shrine can fight.
Yeah, the War Shrine can fight. A buff piece that can fight is actually really, really good. That's sweet. I mean, he's not the War Chanter, but he tries.
No, even like the Chaos Lord on foot. He's got Ren 2 on of his profiles. He's got 7 wounds. I think in Ravagers you can get him up to 9 wounds on a 4-up save. He slaps, and he can use a command point on himself to fight twice. So that little Chaos Lord on foot, again, is actually a little bit of a threat.
Really
so
is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's solid. It's a great army. Like, and also like when you get super techie with it, like we saw Benjamin use when we talk about that list in a bit. You end up with like you can do some really janky fun stuff. So it either plays how it plays and you have to play it well, or like you can get real confusing with it, which is super interesting. And you can't ignore Be'lakor as well. Be'lakor's ability to shut something down is phenomenal. Also, great spell, pretty good in a fight. Again, great like a great support piece in that army. They've done really well with that. I mean, they've even got great under spells, which we don't see play often. They don't really have like a lot of magic dominance in the army. They don't have a lot of multicasters, but still, some real good opportunity. And the ability to ally anything in. There's so many good options. Is it going to be Glotkin? Is it going to be Archeon? Is it going to be like who knows? There's not Archeon. Sorry, Kairos is what I mean. But yeah, loads of great options, right?
I think that you've touched on Be'lakor there, but we haven't even mentioned, like you say, the big bad, like the big Archeon. He resides in that book, and he's a one-man army himself if you build a supporting cast right. But then also all your demon princes. You see your Khorne demon prince put to great effect. And then all the sub factions. I haven't actually ever seen really a Kabbalists list play, and I think that is down to the fact that they are basically relying on spell casting to make it work. But Despoilers is great. Anyway, I'm not going to fanboy on the slaves.
Well, I think there's loads to say, and it's also one of the most efficient armies if you want to go and collect a new army this year. Just thinking it through. Also, just point out Benjamin in the chat, so Mr. Studio Earthwood pointed out that obviously Ravager's subfaction also allows you some summoning as well, so you can even have your cake and eat it with Slaves to Darkness and have some summoning as well. So appreciate you and I appreciate that. The thing I was going to say is if you buy a unit of Marauders or you buy Archeon, or like any of those key pieces, really, a War Shrine. When you've got a War Shrine, you've got like 8 armies worth of model in one model. It's probably the most cost efficient for like playability. You could probably today go buy yourself a Slaves to Darkness army with all those bits, and then adding in a couple of characters here or there, you've got like 14 different armies that you can play with over the course of the year. Like if you wanted to give yourself the opportunity to do so. So it's so good. And it's interesting, even though you banned Nurgle, we ended up with some very Nurgle-heavy saves. Well, basically all keyword Nurgle Saves to Darkness armies. So you can even skirt around all sorts of fun like stuff. So yeah, it's a great army. So I'll fanboy with you. It's my suggestion. It's not my suggestion to new players, but it's my most efficient suggestion to anyone who wants to play this game as cheaply as possible, but as varied as possible, probably.
I think perfect second army, Rob. Should we settle on that? Perfect second army, because it needs playing. It's got a lot of strength. But yeah,
Legion of Asgore first army.
Yeah. Obviously,
because it's 3 War Scrolls. 3 War Scrolls you're going to take. And
you don't need to say it, Rob. You don't need to say it. There was a Legion of Asgore army there at the weekend.
I know there was. I
think he got a win. Let me have a quick look. Come on, I'm scrolling down. I'm continuing to scroll down. Okay,
he took magma cannons, which was the mistake. You just take more fire glaives.
Yeah,
he only took 90.
Yeah, he got a win. Yeah, he got a solid win. Looks like he beat one of the Cities of Sigmar armies. There we go in the first round. And then he got some rough matchups. So
that's our city now. That's our city now. That's right. Hashut has put up his little statue. It's our city now, baby.
Fucking massive hats everywhere. That's it.
See, actually, I know we're talking stats. I don't want to get too creative like a Monday show, but just real quickly, if you're talking about the Mortal Realms and the ridiculousness of the hats that we've got going on, the army that are famous for big hats entering into what is the parade of big hats, I can only imagine ludicrous.
Yeah.
It's back in back in the 1400 or whenever it was, when everyone had the pointy toe shoes that you had to wear at court.
Yes.
This is some English law for you guys.
Medieval winkle pickers, yeah?
Yeah, but then like at one point they were so long that they had to curl and someone had to use a bit of string to hold them up. That's...
Nothing else, naked, just massive hats. And just shoes with bells on them. Make it happen. If someone can do Cat-Chan Warriors all as Hulk Hogan, green stuffed, we can definitely have naked
dwarf with winkle pickers and hats for days, 18-foot long hats. Anyway, so sorry. Let's bring us. Did they only win one game? Sad face.
Yes, they did. So in terms of the pack, we played 3 rounds. We played Border War, Places of Arcane Power, and the best mission in the game, Scorched Earth. All the terrain was preset, and we had scenery rules in play this time, which was great. So, people able to take advantage of mystical, sinister, arcane. I don't think I rolled all the terrain randomly, and there wasn't one bit of commanding, which is nice. And then I also curated all the auxiliaries, which I think will lead a little bit into our conversation about the winner of the tournament. So yeah, we curated and took out, because I found my previous tournaments I allowed players to choose 7, and then they were able to attempt 6 and drop 1. And everyone, give or take, would take pretty much the same 4 and then a couple of different ones. So I just took out all the easy ones. The bait, pillage, territorial, things like that. Always got taken and often always got scored. So I skimmed out all the easy, took out all the easy mode armies, took out all the easy mode auxiliaries, and then that's the game we played. So yeah, it was great. I think everyone had a great time. That was the main thing, and we all learned quite a bit. In terms of the results, Rob, the top 10. Let's have a look at the top 10. Let's have a quick look at the top 10. There was a Skaven army. Cole came in 10th with his Skaven army. The Stormkeep patrol with the shooting, again, 9th. Then we had 3 Daughters of Cain in the top 8. And they were all of the Hagnar build. So, Shadow Queen, Marathi Cain, and then a mixture of either lots of Sisters of Slaughter over your Witch Elves.
I think that was already a trend that was occurring way before. Is that pile in 6 inches, which is obviously great. So yeah, I mean, and Witch Elves got more expensive over time, and they got closer to the conversation that you would get with Sister Slaughter, and the Sister Slaughter I think just rose generally to the dominance as well. Although I do think Benjamin was still running them when he was like trouncing the world, as was many other people. But yeah, really good Sister Slaughter. And that's why when we reviewed the Marathi book, I was like, do they compare to Sister Slaughter Pile in 6? And the answer is no. So
it's just like, I remember I watched a bit of the stream of Game 2 when I was TOing, and seeing Chucklebutty be surprised by the fact that you could run and retreat the Varangard out that were tagged and then just pile in 6. So that bit of tech, like the Sister Slaughter, they can run and charge, retreat and charge, retreat and run and pile in 6. It's just like, real tech. So if you can get, if you can sort of learn and develop that play style, it was
actually we'll get to that in a minute, because I was going to talk about that grasping plate move in a minute, so we'll get to that. So yeah, so please continue with the top 10.
And then into the top 5, Stefan Gmer, who really often does really well in my tournaments. He was the top performing Daughters. He also took home the favourite opponent, so winning all his games and being favourite opponent. Love that shit.
Best award.
Jason Franklin, who took the Blades of Corn list with the Korgoraths and the Mighty Skull Crushers. Darren Watson picked that out as his award. I do an award for a fun, creative or off meta list. So
I think that's something. Especially for all us list junkies, which I think is what we are. Hashtag I'm a list junkie too. Get it in me. Someone's like, I found this new artifact. You're like, tell me all about it. What's it do?
Right,
all of us list junkies. I mean, having someone like Darren come up with an award like that is obviously brilliant, and he's a great judge of something like that. Yeah.
Jason picked that up, and then back into the top 10. Inferno Storms, who's in the chat, he brought the Lurid Haze Archeon list, 40 Marauders. 10
Did he go 3-0 with that?
He did indeed. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, he did.
Fuck yeah. Love that list.
he took out some really good stuff. So he beat Mark Brooks, who had a janky Skaven list in the first round.
Still don't
He
understand it.
he beat Pask's very good ogre list. I think it's a Blood Gullet ogres.
Nice.
And in the final round, he 20-0'd a one drop shoot cast.
Wow,
So
3 great opponents and 3 great lists he beat. Amazing. That Lurid Haze list, I think, has got like massive legs. I know, obviously, we're pretty much. I was going to do a deep dive in it over the next couple of weeks at some point in one of the stream streets or something. But ultimately, with the new Heed Knights book, we're not exactly sure what's going to survive. Like,
yeah,
through. But like, otherwise, I'd be like, everyone should go. If everyone's into Slanesh, you should get into it. But unfortunately, no. So like, hold off. But still a great list and played super well. So Inferno Storm should like go buy himself like an apple pie or whatever makes him happy this morning. Something. Yeah, like, give himself a round of applause. Sorry, please continue.
that's cool. And then he only missed out on third on strength of schedule by 0.11 of a tournament point. So yes, but yeah, so pipping him to third was Benjamin Sava with his Archeon Flayers list. I think you may have done a show and talked about it in the past. I'm not sure, but
so
either way,
we did touch on it like a while ago. So Benjamin talked about like some of his unique lists. This was a good while ago, and I'd love to, if he's got the time, to get him on the show again to talk about that list in detail. Because it's just excellent. I think the key piece of tech for everyone to kind of really understand is the Slave to Darkness list, but he uses the mercenary rule to allow him to take 6 crypt flayers in the list. And that's really, really important because mercenaries are still a thing. Well, we've talked about it on the show before, obviously. I talked about it during the Gargant's review, and it's still viable. The way it becomes viable is because of an FAQ that was put out post-GHB, so you can go find that on the Warhammer community site. But that's the really important part. And there were some pretty heroic moments from that list, right, Owen?
Yeah, as I understand it, he was unhappy to get a KO matchup round 2, but I'm pretty sure that turn 1 on 3 places of arcane power, he killed 2 ironclads on turn 1. One got screamed off by the Flayer combo, which drops down the bravery. So I'm not sure what the bravery on an ironclad is. I don't know how brave a non-human sort of a craft can be.
A boat?
Yeah, how brave is your boat?
I feel
babe?
it's probably just as brave as the pilot. Is that what they called it? The steersman? It's bravery 8.
It's not steersman, by the way, Rob. Just to be clear.
Wait, is DJ Batman still in here? He was in the Navy, and they called VIP. Thank you very much for subscribing. That's very lovely of you. Welcome to the gang. First time in the house. It's bravery 8 base, an ironclad. So that's how brave a steersman is.
Steersman. Jesus, Rob, please don't log that in your brain as like the name. It's not the fucking name. Steersman.
What is it? You got the oarsman?
So next Sunday, you'll be like, Rob, what are you painting on the hobby stream? Oh, I don't know. I just got one of these Caradron Overload steersman.
Oh, for God's sakes. Okay, well, I don't know what the man who flies the Caradron boat is.
Okay, so what's the bird's eye song? This is the captain of your ship.
But it's not the captain, because he orders. He's like, is it because the captain's like, don't fly away, and the steersman's like, I'll fucking fly away if I want to. I'm terrified. Yeah.
What's he doing? Polishing silver or something?
No, he's doing the wheel, the steering wheel.
Yeah, the big thing. I don't think. Surely, though, if he did that, he would just be moving in a wiggly line.
There's a lot with Owen. This is a hot topic now. Don't think it's seaman. It might be helmsman, coxswain. It might be a pilot, boat turning guy, floaty driver. I'm going with that. That's perfect. The floaty driver. Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, great. Okay, so he screamed off one, and Archeon gobbled up another one, and he was okay then. So that was pretty big moment. Another big moment, which we need to.
2 ironclads in one turn is hilarious. Like Benjamin's in the chat, he dropped one down to bravery 0, screamed it to death, and Archeon ate the other. That's it's 18 wounds on a 3-up save. Both of them gone in a turn. Aren't they like? They're like 400. Like there are a lot of points.
Yeah, and he could have flicked on the reroll saves triumph. You know, your Aether Gold for the one that Archeon had a go at.
Reroll saves.
Yeah. Boat in the sword. No, it's not a hero. Damn it. Okay, never mind.
One day. Yeah. Put the steersman in it. That's what you should have done.
So that was a pretty big moment. Another big moment where you have to put a pin in that hasn't been noted was the excellent performance of Math Mallow with his Sylvaneth. The dream was alive for a little while there,
It
right?
was.
Going into round three.
He was 2-0 going into about round 3. Could have taken the 3-0, won all of our hearts. But unfortunately... And that was after beating a Marathi on Arcane Places of Power, which is not easy.
No. A Spite Revenant killed Marathi, which is fucking excellent. No rend, little
I feel like
down.
Spite Revenant's the perfect description for every Sylvaneth player at this point. Like that's how they feel.
Oh my god, the chat are still talking about the bloody boatsman, the helms master, the wheel.
Aether Driver makes loads of sense to me.
Yes, the
DJ
wheel.
Batman, who was genuinely in the Navy, was officer of the watch, but so that's maybe... Anyway, because I was just going to say, it depends how brave your officer of the watch is. Because if you got the guy from the Titanic, brave as hell, he's never going to die, bravery like 24. Yeah, Wesley Crusher from Star Trek, bravery 0, basically straight away. Terrible helmsman. He's awful.
Yeah, he's not a premium wheel jockey, is he? He's not the guy.
I'm out on that guy.
Matt Malley did great. And yeah, you're right. He beat Daughters on places, and then he rolled straight into another Daughters matchup. And I think that might have actually been. Let's have a quick look. Was it our man Stefan? Let me just check for you.
Stefan wasn't running the Calibron list, was he?
No. Stefan was running a Hagnar list. I'm just looking at it. Yeah, it was Stefan who took fifth. Who beat Matt in the last round there. So, but yeah, doing really good. And I think his list is pretty much what you have to run if you want to have any chance of operating with Sylvaneth. So Sylvaneth players out there, I can put the list in the chat now. But yeah, have a little check out of that. Basically, 12 to 15 Kurnoth Hunters. Some support heroes, and I like his pick of the Aether Wings, obviously popping up in a lot of order armies, but easy to slot in, and it just means you don't have to commit anything important, but still to stay in the points game early, and also excellent at screening out and stuff. So good on him. But then back to the top 3. As I say, I would let Benjamin really dig into that list and give you all the tech there.
Agreed.
But we saw Alan play on the stream round 2, facing off against Alan Joins. And that's a really nice list. That's who Cole came unstuck against in the last round. Going for the 3x3 Varangard rather than the 1 big 9, which Mark Wilson ran, for example. I've seen like Luke Morton playing the 9 in Plague Touched. But yeah, I like the 3x3 because it just gives him some more threats around the board. So you've got a unit of 3 Varangard, a unit of 3 Varangard, unit of 3 Varangard, all heroes, all Mark of Nurgle. And then he had 2 5s of Chaos Knights, 40 Marauders, and a War Shrine with an extra CP in the 1-drop Plague Touched Warband. He's got a Chaos Sorcerer Lord in there, obviously, as well for the spell, for the teleport, and for the reroll saves. And what are the reroll saves called, Rob?
On who? Oh, Oracular Vision.
Yeah, baby.
It's in my head. That's what it is. I got it now. Oracular Vision. I've been saying that wrong for about 8 years. So nailed it, everyone. Yeah, Steer Saves is also another version of what they're called. So thanks. So loads to unpack about that. The 9 Varangard, I can understand why you would want to do it because you can double up on the. Well, basically, there's a 2-edged 8. Oh my god, a double-edged sword. Thank you. There's 2 sides to that coin. There's loads of ways to skin this cat. Basically, when you have the 9, it means you can put all of the available buffs on them really well. And it means if I have 3 units, I probably can't afford to buy 3 buff pieces as well. So only 1 unit's getting buffed. However, while that's a positive for you and that you can buff a unit up to the 9s, it also means that you're in a tough spot if your opponent's able to unbuff or debuff that unit. Effectively, any minuses to hit, like if you can do a double minus 1 to hit into the unit, let's say Geminids and another spell, you're in a terrible place on that unit of 9 in that situation. If you could take their save away or reduce their save by 1 or like whatever it might be. Like, so the 9 is obviously great because you can overlap the buffs, but I feel like the 3x3 is a much better conversation. Also gives you 3 opportunities to use that command ability to pop the 3 back, because you can do it once per unit that dies, which is the command ability you get from Knights of the Empty Throne. And I would just find the 9 unwieldy. Like the 12 pigs that I tried to run. It's just unwieldy, I would argue. And I feel that's one of the problems that you get sometimes with the Juggernauts of Khorne and the kind of impact list, hit list sometimes. It's just, they're on big bases. Again, another strength of things like Eels. They're on hilariously small bases for their output. And that really ties into the Vargulf missile, although it's not called that now, right? It's called
Nico from the South London Legion came up with the snappiest title so far. So the Hollowmorn Vargulf, which Chris Welfare and Hippie Chef has been playing it quite a bit in my tournaments. We're going to call it the Smash Bat. The Smash Bat. Because he just goes in and smashes.
I'm into that.
Smash Bat. Yeah.
Smash Bat.
The Smash Bat, which hopefully, I'll play on the breakfast battle tomorrow, Rob. We're going to have a little battle tomorrow.
We are tomorrow morning. First of my breakfast battles. I'm actually hoping to ask Math Mallow if he's going to play me on Wednesday. The first of the breakfast battles will be tomorrow morning, and you're playing Smash Bat, and I'm playing Quad Phoenixes.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's flying intercontinental. Who knows?
The Blazing Crusade, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. We have no idea. We'll put up a poll for which scenario we should play or something in a bit. So that was second place, and there's loads to unpack about that Save Starters list. So Knights of the Empty Throne, I played it a while ago on the Breakfast Battles on TTS. It's been gaining popularity. I don't know necessarily why it is. Maybe it's just a cool guy thing. I always liked it for the command ability rather than the power of the Varangard, but I think people are seeing the power of the Varangard, and that's really why they're keying in there. Because ultimately, the points you would spend on a hero, like let's say a Chaos Sorcerer Lord and Karkadrak is a good example, or like anything else, you end up with being able to kind of like absorb them into the Varangard. So whereas you previously would have had to spend hero and then points on, let's say, the Varangard, you now just end up with a hero for, let's say your average hero is like 140 points. You spend another 160 points and you're getting like a kick-ass hero. So it's like, I can kind of, do you know what I mean? There's that kind of efficiency that we're seeing in that list design, which is why I can see it being quite popular, especially a 3x3. Or a 9, whatever floats your boat. And then it allows you to add the Chaos Sorcerer Lord and the War Shrine. You still got like 800 points to mess around with, like if you want, which is going to be full of your joyous Marauders. Yeah,
well, as you saw in Game 2, like 40 Marauders essentially pretty much one-shotted Nagash, right?
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. 40 Marauders. They just one-shotted Nagash, pretty much. Like, they overkilled him by, like, 10. So he was just... They're too good.
320 points. Even at 320, there's nuts, right? But, yeah.
Has no one ever done all the Marauders?
James... Meg's boyfriend's done all the Marauders, isn't he?
Boyfriend.
No,
so
sorry.
I feel like you could do 150 Marauders or something similar. You could do a lot, is what I'm trying to say. No, not 150, 160 Marauders, and that's still a list.
I like. You can take them in the Varangard. What's it? Sixth Circle or whatever it's called within the Slaves book, and they're all Battle Shock immune then as well, which is pretty nasty. I think there's some play there. The one where Archeon can glimpse the future, Dark Prophecy, whatever. Don't bother with that command ability, but if you take them in that allegiance, then they're all Battle Shock immune, which is pretty scary. So there is room for a big spammy Marauder. I love Colonel Cabbage's contempt for Marauders knows no bounds. It's wonderful. I do really like what Alan did with the 3x3, I must say, because he allows them to do different things. The way that he's built it out in terms of artifacts and traits, he's got one unit's got a 6-inch pile in, and you can't retreat from it, so it's like a real tagging piece. And then the other one's got the corrupted Nullstone, which is they give the automatic unbind. And then the other one is just a vanilla unit of Hero Varangard. And it just means that I often find it really difficult when you load a lot into one unit and then it gets negated or controlled. and all your powers in one place. I think that's very much backing up what you were saying there about the 9. And he had often people ask about the loadout on the weapons. They were all demon forged blades, so he's got a nice bit of mortal wound poke there as well. I think you get that from the demon forged, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that leaves us with top of the tree. Heard his name on this show many times, right? Philip Kartaev, Russian ETC player of note.
Who, by the way, owns this army in real life. He sent me a message. Lovely of him to reach out. He owns the army he took in the real. Which, if anything, he deserves an award and a reward for just having to build this many Phoenix Guard. They're the only kit I've ever noped out Elvo in. I put 8 together, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing this again. I think I abandoned an entire High Elf army off the back of not wanting to do that any more of those. They're the worst. It took me 3 hours to build 8 at one point. It was just horrific.
Not as bad as a Dawn Rider by from what I hear. So I've just put the list in the chat if people would like to read along. But this is Philip's list. I think he does own it in real life, and I know that he was on the end of the only tournament that Darren Watson's entered was he took 90 Phoenix Guard in Hammer Hall. So
Philip. Him and Philip played in the final game. Yeah.
So I think maybe he sort of saw maybe some more potential there, or I don't know, whatever. But I think it should be noted that he played and lost to Darren's Phoenix Guard spam. So his list, very simple. It's the Cities of Sigmar Hammer Hall army. Again, I believe Simon Hall did really well with a Hammer Hall list. You covered him in the final game of CanCon, didn't you?
Yeah.
When he was running the Prime in Hammer Hall.
It's really solid. Unlike the list review show, I kind of made a bit of a mistake of it. You're immune to battle shock in your table half, basically, in your deployment. Yeah. And then in your opponent's deployment, you can activate command ability wholly within 12 of the general, and you can fight again. Now, obviously, that's great if you have something like the Celestin Prime, which is what Simon was using, who obviously is just in range of himself, lands, fights again. So it's a nice little double activation, which is quite rare in order armies ultimately. And it's still you still have to actually go. But when you put it into Phoenix Guard or whatever it would be, or even the Frostheart Phoenix, the Flameheart Phoenix isn't very fighty, but the Frostheart Phoenix is genuinely fighty, especially fighting twice. So it's a genuinely it's a good faction, and you get access to I think that's the key part. Being able to fight again is the key part, because as you get aggressive and you move past the midfield into your opponent's deployment, you end up in a really, really solid place, especially with the units that he had in the army, right? Because they are tanky.
Yeah, I mean he's got an anointed on foot who has the generic has a command trait which gives him an extra CP, and he's got 1 extra attack, but whatever. He's got an anointed on a flame spire, an anointed on a Frostheart with the Twin Stones, and then he has a Knight Incanter with Wings of Fire, who's the adjutant. So again, there's a really solid loadout there. All those units of Phoenix Guard, if they're wholly within 12 of any of the 3 anointed, again, are battle shock immunity. And he's got CP to go because he gets CP for the banners. So he's going to be rolling for the 4 units of Phoenix Guard, fishing for a 6th for more CP. So yeah, I think he's not going to have stuff running away. Those are going to be some brave boys on the table there, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah. It's really good against the Alpha because he's got that battle shock immunity in his own territory. And yeah, Phoenix Guard, it's well known that it's pretty much the best war scroll in the Cities book, I'd say, as a sort of as something that can go in and be battle line, because obviously the anointed general is making the Phoenix Guard battle line, and he has 2 blocks of 30, 2 units of 10, and he's 2k on the nose. So yeah.
It's important that the Phoenix Guard's 420 points, which is outrageous compared to things in its class, really, like other stuff. The inclusion of Phoenix Guard is the reason that literally no other infantry gets a look in quite often. And obviously, Iron Breakers, Iron Drakes, they're obviously great infantry as well. We've seen tournament winning lists with a whole bunch of other infantry where we've got shooters, we've got the handgunners. They do really well. Also the crossbows as well. But I'm mainly talking about fighty sort of units and even hammerers. But I think hammerers maybe coming around this. I think there might be more 30 hammerers, but this is really effectively 60 wounds because they just have a 4-up DPR as a unit, and it's just insane. Like 60 wounds basically is what you're getting for that. And then, like we said, they're immune to battle shock in their own deployment, or they're then immune to battle shock if they're near the anointed, which is key. And then that means that one of the things I love about that is because they just save CP. Doesn't have to use the CP for anything other than like reroll charges, obviously fight again, all those things. So like just making sure that CP is as useful as possible where it needs to be. So there's just a load of overlapping like bonuses that you don't have to worry about with this unit. Even 10 Phoenix Guard is, and they fight so well. 2 attacks each, 3s and 3s, rend 1 damage. Wild.
And I think we need to talk about that because the loadout that he's got, he's put the twin stones on the Frostheart Phoenix. So that Frostheart Phoenix is going to be giving out the blizzard, so the -1 to wound bubble, and then the twin stone has the 2 aspects. So when he's in the Axi aspect, he's getting +1 to hit as a 12-inch bubble wholly within that Phoenix. So he's got sort of something in the region of around about a 28-inch bubble with the base size around which you have +1 to hit. So those Phoenix Guard are hitting on 2s. Maybe he's using his CP for reroll 1s. If he really wants to load in, the Anointed War Scroll command ability is a bubble of reroll all wounds. And the writers felt it fit to give the Phoenix Guard a rend in the new book. So we're talking about perhaps 2s, and they fight in 2 ranks because they've got 3 ranks, 2-inch range, 25
and they're on
mil
25
base.
mil bases. Yeah,
it's like it's proper boner time, isn't it? It's like
you pretty much get all the attacks all the time. Like one of those things that we saw yesterday is when those Marauders piled in, they only got that 1-inch range, even though they've got the crazy charge, and Nagash has got a massive base. They still didn't get all of them in. Still unbuffed to kill Nagash. But the Phoenix Guard, like that 2-inch range and being on 25 mil bases basically means they get to a fight with all of them. And they're super, super survivable. And like the thing I didn't even talk about, we kind of glossed over it. -1 to wound as an aura against the unit. Like, they're amazing. It's pretty much like, it's very hard. I played Speckles once. He sent me a Ghoul King on Terrorgeist and like 4 dragons into my block of Phoenix Guard. And that did kill my Phoenix Guard. But it took like a Flesh Eater Corpse army is like one of the most punchy armies in the world. Yeah, it took that entire army like fighting and activating like 1 billion times, or whatever it did, to take out the 30. So they're brilliant. Like, they're so good. They're arguably undercosted in that book, but they also give the book a lot of like play because you can do some stuff. And when it's spammed like that, because I mean, what wounds are we looking at? It's 114 wounds in the army. It looks quite low, but really it's 230 wounds. Effectively.
Yes. You got to put another 80 plus. All of the Anointeds have the 4-up DPR.
They do.
And that Flame Spire, I've seen a lot of people use that to great effect. People like Buckets, who's very much a regular on the TTS community, he plays the Flame Spire a lot, and it's a great early game pinning piece. I think if you're playing against a Flame Spire, you don't actually really want to kill it. You just want to try and ignore it. But it moves, I think, 14 or 16 inches. And the thing with the Flame Spire is once it's dead on a 4-up, it just pops back up again in place. So I think early game, it gives him a pinning piece or a distraction piece while his Phoenix Guard get in place. He's got the Night Incanter with the spell, which is a great spell. It gives a unit fly and +1 to run and charge. So when you add in the +1 to charge from the banner or the Hornblower in the unit of Phoenix Guard, they've got +2 to charge, potentially flying. It looks really meat and potatoes. But when you start digging in, there's no fat there at all, is there? Everything's got a roll. Everything does really well. There are ways of killing it. I think I did see Chris Welfare with his Smashbat killed 29 Phoenix Guard with the Hollow Morn Smashbat. So there are things out there.
See, but that's what makes me laugh. It still only killed 29. Like, I get it. It's like, everyone's like, right, okay, I've invented a nuclear Vargulf. It's like, okay, sweet. Right. Still only killed 29 Phoenix Guard. There's still one. There's still one there like, fuck you, baby.
I'm still standing. So Philip, I can tell you what he played and what he beat. So round one, he put this army into a 9 Varangard Slaves to Darkness list run by Mark Wilson, the Blood Tide Tio. So, a player of note. He then rolled into a Cities Mirror, but it was Hallowheart Bridge. He was able to take that out. And then round three, he took out the Stormkeep Patrol. And with those Stormkeep Patrol lists, it's often said, you need to be able to chew through the 30 block of libs or the 60 libs. And based on what we've just talked about, those Phoenix Guard will chew through the Liberators in quick time. Also, I must say, all of his games must have been finished with an hour to spare. He just crushed it. Like the whole day, he just crushed it. And even with a curated set of auxiliary objectives where you would expect players to drop one or two or their opponents to get one, he just clean sweeped it. 60 points, 320 O's. So, I mean, you just gotta applaud that kind of.
Well played, Philip. Yeah. I mean, like, I know he plays these events a lot and always does really well as well. So it's really nice to hear that. And obviously another indication that player skills as important ultimately. I think also one of those things. Did you release the battle plans ahead of time?
Nope. No, I don't like that. So, yeah.
And I think that's actually more important to me in some ways because needing to know the battle plans ahead of time so you can write really good lists that play into them is quite important. But then writing a list that list plays well into most things. It's got monsters. It's got heroes, it's got battle line units that are all survivable. So it's just a very competent list as well, right? Like, it's very survivable. So, yeah. I imagine there's a whole bunch of people out there like, I wonder if I want 90 Phoenix Guard. The answer is don't build them. You're going to hate yourself. You'll buy 10 and you'll be like, this is the worst.
I think Sava said in the chat, he put, like, they come in like 14 pieces per model.
It's the worst. Yeah. It's like the blade, like, connects with, like, it doesn't matter. They're just terrible to build. But, like, it would look an awesome army. Philip sent me a picture of his army already, and it looks great. So, like, it's an army that, like, I would like to see on the tabletop more. It's super cool, super functional, and obviously does really, really well, ultimately. So, yeah, did you learn your lessons from the event? I mean, like, anything that you think was a good takeaway?
I'm still sort of getting it all into my brain, but I do think that one thing that definitely came away from is you do see the regardless of the armies that they take, you do see the top players bubble to the top. And I do think, if people want to play something, there can be a stigma about the best armies, and people are always looking for maybe, they want to compete and they want to do well, but they perhaps don't want to be that guy, who brings Croak and 80 skinks. And I think that if you want to do that, then I would probably say that dipping into Slaves to Darkness, Daughters of Cain, and Cities of Sigmar is not a bad shout if you want to just operate just slightly off the real top filth, although there is argument that Daughters is top. But yeah, that would be my learning. If you want to take something a bit different, can't go wrong with Daughters, Slaves, or Cities.
Or I have a counterpoint. Do what I have done, which is buy a plane ticket to Germany as soon as possible. I've already got a T-shirt that says I'm in Orkman's cult now, yeah, and just join Orkman, yeah, wherever that motherfucker plays Warhammer. I love that guy, yeah. I don't know what that guy's doing about Warhammer, but he knows it, like, and he knows it well. Like, one of my favorite games. If you guys didn't go back and watch Game 3, he played a blinder against Seb, who also played a great game, I think, as well. But ultimately, just a solid player, like, and just some great orc tactics that's all being played on Saturday. On Saturday. So just really, really good. It was a great weekend, and but then there's more now. There's more events to come, right, around the world.
There is indeed, and yeah, just to touch on that, I've been contacted by one of the regular tournament players on the TTS scene, one of the American players called Paul is Right, and he's let me know about a future event coming up this weekend. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't put together all the information here, but I think that it may be actually a physical tournament. I don't know, COVID rules allowing and things like that, but essentially it's called the Midwest Masters. We'll cover the final results and stuff a week today, I'm sure, Rob, but essentially what it is, it's the let me just get my notes. I believe it's it's a central part of the US. There's all the players that are based on that. So it's the top 5 scores from all the tournaments of 2020 have been brought together, and they've created a top 8. So I just thought it'd be nice to touch on that, give that a shout out, and then we've got a reference point for next week's show. Essentially, as I say, it's the top 8 players. And I can just give you a headline in terms of those players and the armies that they're bringing, if you like,
Sure.
just so we can see what's doing well over in their meta. So the top performing army, who's kind of like first, if there was a rank, because there's a rankings and they're going to do like a nice knockout. We've got Drew Alexander with an OBR list, Mortis Praetorians, Catacross and Arcan, very much like what Speckles was running, and then he's got 40 and 20 Mortec, 5 Death Riders, a Crawler, and Geminids. So looks pretty solid. Then second place, James Matthews with Lumineth Realm Lords list, Zytrek, which is Teclis, Cathlar, and he's gone for the big blocks. He's gone 2 blocks of 30 Wardens. Never seen that before. And he's also got a Tidecaster in there with 20 Sentinels, Purple Sun, Ravenax Gnashing Jaws, and Suffocating Gravetide. Very interesting list. Never seen that really in a Lumineth list.
Me either.
No. And then working through Paul himself, who sent me the information. He's very much an Idoneth Deepkin player. He was 3rd in the rankings, so he's got.
So this is between 2 states worth of events.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Is what we're finding.
So it looks like we've got Volty. We've got 2. Volty, a Soul Scryer. 1, 2, 3, 4 times 3 defensive eels in the Ishleyan, 3 Morsar, 2 Alapexes in a unit with Retarius net launchers, another 1 single Alapex called Bruce, and then we've got 10 Shadow Warriors, 2 units of 3 Ether Wings, and a Leviathan. That Leviathan turning up, and then just rattling through.
I think we're going to see more and more Leviathans in lists as we go on.
Yeah. What's it say here? The army lists are now, but they're not the same from what they were running for the year. Okay, so they're not the same. They are basically, they've brought a new list for this tournament.
Yeah.
We do have a Tempest Eye list, Hurricane and Battle Mage, Warden King, Rune Lord. Yeah, this kind of city's Tempest Eye, sort of Dwarden heavy, and he's got the 4 Desolators, 30 Longbeards and Drakes. Perhaps if they would like to share the lists in the chat, and I'm sure people would like to list. We've got a Khorne list, a Mortal Khorne Gore-Tide with lots of Blood Warriors and Wrathmongers with Scar. Love to see Scar Blood Wrath.
Me too.
Great fun. Boulderhead, Billy Elliot, bringing, not the Billy Elliot, I'm sure, another Billy Elliot bringing Boulderhead more tribes with your 60 Noblar, woohoo, and a Skull Battalion, and then
nice.
triple Frostlord on Stonehorn. Oh, no, sorry, one's on a Thunder Tusk. That's cool.
Okay. That's cool. Yeah. I like Noblars. As many as possible, please.
Yeah, 3 times 20 Noblar. And then there's an OBR Petrifex list with 60 Skeletons, a Crawler, Death Riders, and some Heroes. And rounding it out, a Guild of Summoners, Zinch list. Archeon in Guild of Summoners. Sorcerer Lord, Blue Scribes, Magister, Shaman, and then some Kyrics and an Enlightened in the Witchfire Coven. So yeah, a nice meta there.
Nice different mix of stuff. So this is like in Midwest America. I would say that if the players are playing in real life, I would like them to let me know how they're keeping it that safe, because super important as a community that we make sure we all stay safe and we're not bad actors in a global pandemic. That's not me being critical. I'm just saying stay safe, stay well, and be very, very aware, especially in the US, right? Like I care about you all, and I all want you to be well. And I care about the people around you, so super important to me as much as anyone else, right? And I know, Owen, you would double up with that, but it's cool. It's also an elimination style event, which I think is fun. I quite like that. I like elimination style events. I think there's some added drama. Although I feel sorry for the guy that's going to wait it out after the first round.
Just sat there talking to his models like, why couldn't you cast that spell all game?
Come on,
look at that, 3 hours.
But I do like the idea of an elimination event where then the play. I mean, you could go off and just you got eliminated too. Do you fancy a game? Yeah, you could go and have a chill game. But I do like the idea that the losers kind of sit and just and the loser pews fill up with people as they're slowly watching who's going to win. That sounds quite fun. So yeah. Yeah, that sounds like fun. And then the event that's got me very excited, though, very, very excited,
Me
is
too.
yeah. Do you wanna tell us all about this, Owen?
Yes, this is the Butcher's Tribe tournament run by Pask. Now, if we can get all the work, oh, here he is. He's in the chat. If we can get all this to work, he's actually going to do the draw for the tournament live, and we can, players can then jump to it. We can have a little look. But basically, we're looking at a team tournament on TTS, international team tournament. Looks like we've got 30 teams, Rob, 90 players, all battling it out, and the games start this week. So yeah. There's quite a few teams with players of note. I can rattle through a couple of these. We've got Team Bin, which is Luke Morton, Dan Bradshaw, the Master, and Simon Hall. That's a pretty spicy team.
Can't really argue with the prestige of that list.
Yeah, that's kind of
cannot. Go on.
Sorry, go on. No.
I was going to say you can argue with their ability to speak English well. But ignoring that. It's interesting that there'll be an English team, but probably lower down the rankings of the ability to speak the language. But other than that, an amazing pedigree to like a quality team.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that they'll be bringing a lot of filth. I'm not sure what they're going to bring. It'd be interesting to see if Luke's going to bring his eels or perhaps the Varangard. So that's Team Bin. Another few to note. Playing on the Super Series, hopefully in the future, the Bad Moon Loons are taking a team. So that's Daniil, Matt Goldsborough, and Matt Grace. And then looking around, we've got a team from Canada called Northhammer. That's the Season of War guys. So Jordan Duncan, Corey, and Ridge Hanna. There's a rather star-studded Aussie team, AOS Shorts Pro team. Maybe they're going to have, branded shirts and everything. This is Matt Tyrell, Chris Welfare, and Ash McEwen. So again, some excellent gamers there.
Great team.
Yeah, great team. Philip, who've mentioned, is bringing a Russian team, the Angry Alpacas. I think that's going to be mainly Russian ETC players. So if
I saw they were coming, I'd be like, I don't think I'll play in this. I'll pack a bag and I'll leave.
Okay, sorry. Are we ready to continue now? Are you okay, Rob?
Yeah, we carry on. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, please continue.
No, that was good, man. I appreciate that. That was great.
Skitley was going to love it, but
yeah, I loved it deep down, man. I'm just playing with you. So that's Philip, Kartiev, Artyom, Karepin, and Oleg Krasulev. I hope I've got those right. Team, I'm going to just rattle through a couple more. We've got Team Beatdown, which is made up of some real sort of TTS stalwarts. You see these guys playing their games all the time. This is Tyler Buckets Pearson, Mike Peterson, and Vito Lungtilevant. Vito, who you had on the stream previously against Casper, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, so those boys, they grind through a lot of games, so I expect them to do quite well. And then I'm not obviously going to rep my own team. So Benjamin, Laurie, Huggett Wild, the Six Nations captain for England, and myself are playing under the Fiction banner and looking to do well. And then finally, I don't know any of the players, but winning the best team name is the Gangs of New Pork. I'll just leave that there. I think it's
Gangs of New Pork is a great. I can't wait to see. So I think we're gonna. Pass doesn't know this, so he's in the chat. And also thank you to everyone who's just gifted gift subscriptions in the chat. Big love. I think it was DJ Batman. So massive love to you. You're all great. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget this month, if you subscribe on Nerdist Wargamer on Twitch or on Patreon, someone is going to win. 4 people are going to win. 2 different people are going to win a bit of terrain that I 3D print, and 2 people are going to win a different model that I 3D print. There you go. That's a little fun thing. That's just a little extra bit.
Nice.
So that's a cool. That's nice. Yeah. However, what was I going to say? I think we're going to try and do some support. I might try and get in touch with Past after and do some graphics and some other stuff, which would be quite fun because we'll be able to keep track of this. Sounds really fun. There's some big names from around the world playing up against each other, and TTS is as valid a version of playing Warhammer as it is playing online, like in real life. So it'll be super cool to see this go down. I'm looking forward to it, and we might try and keep up with the results as time goes on. Owen, that would be fun, right?
Definitely. So, Pas, you going to do the draw now? Chuck me a Discord message. Yeah, so are we going to do the draw now and see it? Or I think we've hyped it enough. So I think, here he is. Pask is saying that he's going to do it.
Will that team tournament be streamed? Well, so Chuckabutty, as you can imagine, so there are 28 teams playing, and they'll all be playing different games. So one of the things that we will try and organise with PASC and some of the teams is if they're playing against each other, we could potentially do some coverage of some of the events. Obviously, because it's digital and they happen at different times, but really the teams organise their own times to play, and they've got to play within a certain window. I'm right about that, Owen, aren't I?
Yeah, that's correct. It'll be very much like the Butcher's Buffet tournament, which he ran, whereby you have a certain amount of time to complete your games, and yeah, it'll be like you'll have sort of rounds each week. But maybe if we can coordinate with PASC, we could perhaps stream the odd game. I think we just got a nice little look at that.
I did. Yeah, 3D Hexes. Thanks so much for donating £25 to the show. That's great of you. Woohoo! That's going straight on some printer material to print stuff for the giveaway. So, fucking finger guns. Thanks so much, 3D Hexes. That's lovely of you. Oh, we're looking at the draw.
We are.
3D Hexes. Massive love. Big shout. That's fantastic of you. That's good.
Let's have a little look. We've been told,
Owen's going to go through it.
Yeah, we're seeing. So let's see who Team... Oh, look at that! We're in. Team Bin and Fiction are in the same pool. I call it a fix. But yeah, that's... So Simon, Luke...
Can we get it up on the screen? I can get it up on the screen. Have you got a link to it, Owen, you could throw in the chat?
I'm sharing my screen if you want to go to that.
I can't do that. I can't do that.
Okay.
But if you send me a link, I could do that.
Okay.
I can do that, but it's just a whole ball game.
Let me just stop. You can tell that we're absolutely flying by the seat of our pants here, right?
Hey, 2021, as we mean to go on. Yeah, have a great time. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
I've sent you a link so you can bring that up. But yeah, let's see. Team Beatdown are in there with Northhammer. I'm not sure how many of these teams are playing or watching, should I say. I've sent you that link. Let's have a look. The Angry Alpacas, the Russian team, they're in there with the Legions of the Cities of Zinch. Yeah, this is great. And there's a team called Team Jank and Spank. I like that. And they're in with the Angry Alpacas, the Russian team, they're in with the AOS Shorts Pro team. So we're going to have some Russian ETC players playing against some of the Aussie ETC players. That'd be quite a nice...
It's on the screen now. So in Pool 1, we've got the Finnish C team. I would love to be in that team, I want you to know. I'm only in the Finnish F team, so I'm not actually able to get in it yet. Versus Team Bin, as you talked about, Fiction, and then Frozen Rainbow Phil. So bit of an English who's the best here. Yeah, that's pretty important. That's interesting. I think Owen, by the way, in Team Fiction, if you want a team to root for, as well as the immutably lovely Laurie Huggett Wiggett, and of course Miss Benjamin Sava. So great little team there going in. And then Pool 2, Team Beatdown. I don't know much about Team Beatdown. Northhammer, Team SYM, and Team DIM. They seem like they're from the same crew.
Could be. Yeah, I have to admit that I'm not across all of these teams, so I can only pick out the odd one. But I'm sure that there's going to be some rivalries being created in here. I do have to say that PASC's favourite team is the grown-ass men playing plastic dollies, but digitally. That's quite a mouthful, but good for them. Team Spain in there against the Bad Moon Loons. That'd be interesting. I could just say lots of names now, but basically. Lots of good players, lots of good armies. I don't know if the lists are up because that's quite a.
So just run me through it. Does each team play each other team for a winner? Or
yes, indeed. Yeah, basically what you do, and I believe the matchup process is obviously whoever gets to put down their first team, their first army, then the opponent matches into that, and then the opposing team who didn't place their first army down in the first round, place it down for the second, and then the last two armies that are left, or the last two players, they then fight off against each other. So it's kind of like a simplified pairing process. I understand that I've probably just explained that absolutely awfully, but basically there's a matchup which one team determines to a certain degree, then there's a matchup which the other team determines to a degree, and then the last two, the armies that are left over, then play each other. So it's quite a simplified pairing process.
So to give you guys maybe less words, the format is the team who wins their group makes the top 8 with one wildcard slot awards the best scoring second place team. That's how you do, and then they play against each other into the win. That's how we're doing it. That's how we're going. Finger guns for the gang. I'm looking forward to that. We'll do some more coverage of this as the weeks go on, because it's not going to just happen this weekend. It's happening over the next few weeks, so it'll be fun. If we can cover some of those games live, we will try to cover some of those games live. That's a phenomenal amount of games to try to come alive. If you guys actually do the math in your head, it's a lot. I think Owen's going to do it right now for you, so it's not actually possible. So, but we will try and generate that information, as well as like look at the army list and all this stuff. So it's going to be fun. If we ever get more Twitch emotes, I want finger guns. So I came in blasting. Welcome to Age of Sigmar. Hey, you won that tournament. How'd you do it? Well, I came in blasting, and then I left. That's what happened. Well, that's going to be everything for us today, I think. Owen, is that right?
I think so. I've just hit some numbers on my calculator, and I think it's around about, if I've got it right, it might be around about 270 games of Warhammer through that, because there's 90 players. That's going to be 45 games per round, 6 rounds. 45 times 6 is 270. Yeah, so lots of Warhammer.
Lots of Warhammer.
Lots of Warhammer.
That is why. I'm very excited about the pairing process, actually. I'd be really keen if PAS can make it so that the teams keep their pairing information, what went in and what didn't. I would love to be able to analyze that in some of the in the stat shows in the future. So really, really into that. I think pairings is one of the most obtusely difficult things to know about right now, because all the people who are currently good at it don't really want to talk about being good at it, because they don't want anyone to be good at it, because they want to be good at it, right? So that might be a whole different...
Keep it safe. That's it.
Yeah,
right?
they're like, oh, we won't tell anyone. So I'd love to know more about that in the future, obviously. Right, well, Owen, pleasure. Thank you again. It's been a great show. We've had a really fun time.
We always do, right? Me too, man. Always do. So, thanks again to all the players that came in the weekend. And, look out for another Hammer Time event soon. If anybody wants to join the Discord, play some TTS, if you're TTS curious, just hit me up. We can all play more games and learn together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., me and Owen will be doing a breakfast battle, and I should be doing 2 other breakfast battles this week. I will be putting more information about that on the socials later. Also, tonight, don't forget to join us for the Age of Sigmar Monday show. We've got a cool new little thing while we're waiting for some new books to come out. Big suggestion from James, which I thought was really clever and really fun. He was like, let's look at like all of the battalions in a couple of the books every week. And then just like have a long conversation about them. What can you put in them? Because sometimes they become famous, like Plague Touch, obviously a famous battalion. The Stormkeep Patrol is obviously at this point already becoming a very famous battalion. But what are the other battalions like? What can you put in? So very much looking forward to that show tonight. It should be a good laugh, as always on a Monday. And of course, you can join us next Monday or every day at midday. I am trying to get to partner status, which means I need about 100 people watching every single show on Twitch. So if you guys ever, on average, and I have to do that for a month. So if any of you, think, oh, maybe I won't watch today, if you could just click it on in the tab or anything like that for me. If you're a Hydro Homie guy, if we don't do it, then that's fine. But if we do it, it means I can get more emotes in the chat. So like you guys are saying in the chat, we could do that. So please, if you get the opportunity to, that'd be sweet. That's my only beg today. That's the only beg I've got today. But don't worry, there'll be a brand new beg tomorrow, Owen. I got a list.
No doubt.
Well, Owen, look after yourself. Love you loads, man.
You too. And I'll see you tomorrow morning. Ready to get smashed off the table.
We're going to get spanked. And thanks everyone for joining us live. Love you loads. See you later tonight. Have a great day and have a great time. Thank you.